Every year, on the second week, on the second Tuesday of September, the United Nations General Assembly convenes in the capital of US, in New York City. Hello everyone, welcome to the Concern Podcast, where we unpack political, socio-economic and cultural stories shaping our world. I'm Emmanuel Taban, and on this video, I want us to look at the analysis and summarize the speech given by the Vice President of the Republic of South Sudan, Her Excellency Josephine Lagu, during the United Nations General Assembly in New York City. Now, before we proceed, if this is your first time watching video on this channel, please subscribe. This is a very interesting channel where you'll be following interesting stories about politics, about our social life, and about our countries, especially about our country, South Sudan, East Africa, and the African continent. So if you're someone who is passionate about politics, you are in the right place. Just click on the notification button so you can get notified about new video that we upload every time, and comment, like, and if it is worthy, share with your friends and your circle. Thank you so much. And before I continue, let me take some tea. Now, as I say, that on this video we're going to discuss about the speech given by the Vice President of the Social Service Delivery Cluster, Her Excellency Josephine Lagu, in New York City during the United Nations General Assembly. Now, so we can understand, every year on the second week, on the second Tuesday of September, the United Nations General Assembly convenes in the capital of US, in New York City. What they usually do during this day is they discuss major issues that face the world and pass resolutions on it. And yesterday, the 25th of September 2025, was the third day where countries and leaders, representatives of governments give their speeches during the assembly or address the assembly. And yesterday, one of the persons who addressed the assembly was Her Excellency Josephine Lagu, who is the Vice President leading the service cluster in South Sudan. Now, I made a video initially before, like 2 weeks ago or so, regarding the meetings of Adut Salva Kiir, the presidential special envoy on a special program about her meetings, and I did mention in one of the part of that videos that one of the person who could go for the United Nations General Assembly to represent President Salva Kiir is likely Josephine Lagu, and it happened. She went to New York City, led a delegation of South Sudan who represented the government and President Salva Kiir. Among the delegation also include the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sumaya Kumba. He was part of that delegation. And just to kick into the content of her speech, Josephine Lagu gave a very, very interesting, detailed, and historic, I would say, speech about South Sudan. She introduced the world to South Sudan. She gave the historical background of the country, how the country gained independence and how the country went back into war, and what is the vision of the government of South Sudan into 2037 or so. She gave a very interesting speech, and she gave some statistics as well that are very interesting and eye-catching. But to so many people, what she said in that speech is not the reality. To some people, much of what Josephine Lagu said in that speech is not a reality. One of the things, for instance, that she mentioned during her speech is that the South Sudan government is so much concerned about peace implementation. The government of South Sudan, led by President Salva Kiir, has over and over again promised South Sudanese that Kiir has promised South Sudanese that he will never ever take the country back to war. Yes, I've had that said by President Salva Kiir, which is true. Josephine Lagu said the peace agreement, the implementation of the revitalized peace agreement 2018, today is at 60%. I don't want to judge her, but South Sudanese back home on the ground knows exactly what 60% would mean. We know all the steps that are still lagging behind in the implementation of the peace agreement. So to so many people in South Sudan, they feel that is not a reality. Josephine Lagu also mentioned that the enrollment of school-going children has increased from about 300,000 to about 1 million something. But she also acknowledged that still about 2.8 children are not in school. That is a very great acknowledgement. That says so much about, in a population of about 11 million people, and 2.8 school-going children are unable to go to school. This tells you so much about the interests of kids, of parents, of the deliberate efforts by the government to actually make these kids go to school. It speaks so much. One other thing that Josephine said, advocated for during her speech, is that she called for debt cancellation, she called for debt relief, she called for debt forgiveness. That means all the monies that the South Sudan government has been borrowing or has borrowed from International Monetary Organization or the IMF, the World Bank, and other corporations and individuals, Josephine Lagu said that they should be forgiven or relieved or cancelled. That is what she spoke about during her speech. She advocated for debt cancellation. The South Sudan's debt should be forgiven. She also called for lifting of the arms embargo. She argued that the arms embargo has actually led to limitations on the implementation of the peace agreement. To Lagu, the United Nations should pass a resolution to lift up the arms embargo on South Sudan, but also she said that there should also be a lift on sanctions on individuals, and by that, of course, it means some of the top-ranking South Sudanese politicians who are still under sanctions by the U.S. Department of Treasury. And here we're talking about people like Dr. Benjamin Bolmel, the Vice President of the Republic of South Sudan Economic Cluster, Taban Dengai, Vice President of South Sudan Infrastructure Cluster, Martin Elia Lumro, Minister of Cabinet Affairs. These, among others, are the individuals that are still under U.S. sanctions by the Department of Treasury. And during her speech, Lagu asked for a lifting of these sanctions against these individuals, saying these sanctions actually also affects the implementation of the peace agreement. This is what she said in her speech. Very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. One more thing that I was keenly waiting for during her speech is about the ongoing trial in the country. The trial of His Excellency Dr. Riek Machar, the first Vice President of the Republic of South Sudan. I was waiting to hear that from the speech that Lagu was giving. I was keenly waiting to hear it. Unfortunately, she spoke about it, and I was happy that she didn't ignore that case. Otherwise, it would have been one of the biggest blunder in her speech. Lagu mentioned that South Sudan has been peaceful until the recent attacks by the White Army militia linked to Vice President Riek Machar in Nasser. And she said that Riek Machar has been detained and the court has started his trial. And she also assured the assembly that the trial of His Excellency Dr. Riek Machar is not politically motivated. And she assured them that the courts are going to act in a most fair way in the trial of His Excellency Dr. Riek Machar. If he is found innocent by the courts, then nothing happens. But also if he is found to have committed what those crimes were alleged on him, then he will face the law. He spoke about Dr. Riek Machar, and that is the thing that I was keenly waiting to hear about, because that is not, a simple thing. The world all over knows what is going on in South Sudan, and the US or this international community were waiting for her to speak about it. One thing she acknowledged about the trial of Dr. Machar is that she acknowledged that this trial is going to endanger the peace implementation process. She spoke about it. She acknowledged that, and I think that is the truth about it. That is the truth. It seems like the government knows exactly what is gonna, how the government knows the impact of this trial, and Lagu echoed it during the UNGA, the United Nations General Assembly. She spoke about it. She also spoke about so many other things regarding climate change and how South Sudan is suffering from the impact of climate change. Yet it's contributes less to it. She spoke about things to do with unity and peace across the world, and it was a very interesting speech. In general, I would say she gave a very good speech. She gave a very good address. The address was inclusive. It incorporates everything about South Sudan. It kept the history of South Sudan and how the country got independence, how the country after 2 years got into internal conflict, and the peace agreement that was initiated and achieved, and now the implementation of the peace agreement and where the country is heading and the plan of the government in the next decades of years. Very interesting. It was a very inclusive, very comprehensive speech given by the vice president there. And I suspected her to be the one leading the delegation, and it happened. Of course, the government of South Sudan or President Kiir wouldn't delegate Benjamin Ball to Bandeng because they're still under sanctions, and the only options were Mama Nyandeng and Josephine Lagu. Mama Nyandeng went to, I think, UNGA the other year. So this year, Josephine Lagu went. She also spoke about the women representation and how the government has prioritized that, clearly seen in the representation of women in the presidency, where there are 2 out of 5 in the presidency, which exceeds the expected percentage of women representation. And that is one thing that she also spoke about. So thank you, everyone. This is a simple summary and analysis about the speech given by Her Excellency Josephine Lagu during the United Nations General Assembly. And again, if this is your first time watching this channel, please subscribe, share, comment, and if it is worth it, share with your circle and your friends. And it is a very interesting channel, and it's a way of making it grow. And thanks so much for those who have been supporting this channel. I'll be always here to give you the latest information and the most interesting one about our country, South Sudan, about East Africa.